It's a spicy evening all across the Innsmouth Underhive, where the very air seems to have turned against us. Let us be the chem mass to your willing ear holes. 665.66 UHMA Chemrat Radio.
Yes, Gabo, and don't forget your actual chem mask as we head towards third shift. The Underhive seems to be unable to shake this creeping tendril of choking smog for these past few weeks. Remember, don't light up in Hive proper. Not only is the air toxic enough anyway, but it also might be a little explosive.
And speaking of explosives, a four-armed emperor escaped from the collection of Galen the Headsman Volate, former shot caller for the Carve host. Bits of him and his entire house guard were found scattered about the Carve host compound in the mid-hives. The escaped four-armed emperor is still at large, so it's anyone's bet as to the high score on this particular murder spree.
Boy, is that a mouthful. Galen's spot as shot caller for the Carves is now open. We should probably be ready for all-out war, as his lieutenants have pull with all the Hive Ganger contracts.
We'll just have to wait it all out here at Bob's Basement Basket on sublevel 351. Bob's super spicy barbecued Domicarian Hive wings were ranked 5 toilets by the Hive World Intergalactic last month, and Bob is pretty keen to keep that top spot. My co-pilot in surfing the ever-expanding Vox waves is the majestic missive of mischief himself, Marky.
What does missive mean? Like
submissive.
I don't know about that.
Just go with it.
Is that the root word of submissive?
No.
Does this mean I'm like not dom but submissive, like in the middle? In the middle, I can see. All right, I'm good with that.
A letter, especially a long or official one. So it's used as a title, like Esquire
or bitch.
You're thinking about it way too much. You are way over it.
What's Esquire to Squire?
Esquire is a lawyer, like a pre-lawyer.
You know, I don't like this missive word.
Are always
you can miss me with that shit.
Dismiss you. Our always strapped in and tanked bombard of ballistics beast is crewing the tailguns.
Hello, everyone.
Never to be left out in the cold unless we send him to report on the razor ice storms is our cackling crackshot Kev.
Well, at least I'm inside tonight.
Still cold.
It's cold out there.
Still cold.
I will be your captain as you sail away on the soothing synth signals of Vox-free Innsmouth. I have a name. It's Goblin King.
Keep it.
So this is part 4 of our coverage on the Astra Militarum. And before we get into it, I wanna talk about the problem with meme lore, because it comes up a lot in conversations.
Mandatory podcast fuck around talking about meme lore?
Yeah, meme lore.
Fucking meme lore.
So the famous one that we'll talk about today is the planet broke before the guard.
That's a good one. That's on topic.
It gets branded as being an incredibly repeated piece of 40k official content.
Because it's fucking dope. I feel like it has to be. I feel like in the codex it says it somewhere.
It doesn't. I actually did a bunch of looking. The closest thing that comes in an official print book is Creed's constant last shout of Cadia stands for pretty much the second half of everything. The closest I could find to actually finding a statement of the planet broke before the guard did was in the Battlefleet Gothic Armada 2 teaser trailer. They say it outright kind of towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually is, as you see the chunks of the planet drifting away, and you can see the laser lights, and the Navy is talking about watching people still fight.
Yeah.
However, I found this out in doing all this research, which I didn't expect. I literally expected to figure out what book the fucking line came from and call it good. In the 8th edition Demon Codex, it tells that the Cadians started to turn on each other in desperate attempts to appease the demons and traitor legions that were still on the chunks of the planet in order to save themselves as the air and the gravity of Cadia was stripped away. Which
sounds like chaos propaganda.
Pretty fucking horrifying if you think about it.
Everything else is just Imperial propaganda, so I believe it.
What we do know for sure from the lore is that millions of Cadians fought to secure landing sites and to secure an entrance into the webway for as long as possible. And their sacrifices definitely bought enough precious moments for those who escaped to escape.
So now there's a bunch of traitor guard.
Well, no, all those guys died. There's a lot of Cadians that died in those last moments. I guess what it is the meme that gets spread around a lot is the planet broke before the Guard did, which paints this picture that the Imperial Guard, that the Cadians didn't
Loyal
lose.
to the end.
That
that everyone
lose.
died fighting.
Right.
Right.
When in reality, well, I mean, they did die fighting.
Well, a bunch of them did.
It's
but
who
also
they died for.
Well, it was an organized retreat as well.
Right. They had lost. They had definitely broken. The Cadian defense
lost.
had broken. The Imperium had lost, and they were trying to run away. Or not, they were trying to retreat. They were tactically retreating. So it's
Once Abaddon broke the planet, there's nothing.
Yeah.
Nah, man, you fucking maglock that bitch close. Make sure it doesn't fall apart.
That doesn't
Just
work.
start like stapling.
They're not
the
Necrons.
pieces
They don't
together.
have that kind of bullshit.
You get fucking hammerheads and you hit both sides of the equator and you push that bitch back together.
I like it, Marky. We're going to cover that today, but there's a lot of other meme lore. One of the things that's actually been greeting me all fucking week is, especially you guys and some of the guys in the community like to make fun of me about how Abaddon's arms never fucking sticked on. Well, let me
Abaddon the
explain something to you.
armless.
Let me explain something to you about fucking Tyranid goddamn warriors. They got 4 arms, and none of those fucking things stick on, ever. I swear to God, I'm like, how many pounds of glue are on this stupid model? Why will your arm not
Enough
stick?
glue and anything sticks.
Yeah, I was like, I never
Damn
had a problem
bastard.
with it. I never had a problem with the Tyranids doing that.
You didn't put any together.
I did. I put all the fucking
Several.
Gregs together.
Oh, that's right. I was like,
Several
you
Tyranid
bought it
arms
put
pop
together.
out.
Yeah, I know. Not the ones I have.
Yeah,
The ones
Greg's.
for-
Yeah,
Greg.
right.
I built all those Tyranid warriors. And
Fucking
Tyranid.
guy, Greg, you better listen to this podcast because if not,
He-
I'm just gonna
bro.
talk shit about you anyway. Greg,
Yeah.
He
fuck
probably
you.
doesn't.
He literally took today off work because his wife wanted him to stay home.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say he took the day off so that way he can listen to the pod.
So he
I
can
was
listen
like,
to
all
the
right, I
podcast.
take it all
Super
back,
excited.
Greg. You're a good guy.
He was required to work at home because he had to work late yesterday.
Are you talking about his wife required?
yes.
Oh, hey, well, good for you, Greg. I mean, you got
I
that
almost-
putang.
I
You
kinda-
ordered that putang. That's all it is.
I kind of wish that I could just get my work to let me work from home
All right,
because
I'm gonna start getting my wife on that. Like, hey, he worked too much. He needs to stay home today
Hey, can
and
you
get
yell at my
paid.
boss?
Right?
I know my work would shut it down.
That's a good.
Exactly.
See, Greg's got a good one.
Just like they took away my schedule.
Ugh.
Right? Yeah, then you
Assholes.
wouldn't have a job.
So yeah, do you guys have any other meme lore stuff out there? I know there's a bunch of it. It crops up all the time.
I mean, drive me closer so I can hit them with my sword is a good meme lore.
But yeah, so a lot of it's
Yeah.
funny too. Like I think we all appreciate the meme lore. It's just when we get into deeper conversations about lore stuff, it's not. Just realize, as funny as the memes are, they're a very, very surface or an outright fabrication to what the actual lore says. And
Oh,
there's
yeah.
a lot of new players. There
Yeah.
are a lot
I mean-
of new people to the hobby that have a tendency to be like, oh, yeah, Abaddon can't hit anything because his arms always fall off. I read that. And I'm like, that's not how it works in the game. Oh, no, that's how it works in the game. I read it. That's a meme about the old metal model, which isn't in circulation anymore. No. I'm pretty sure it's in lore that his arms fall off. Okay, dude,
he
sure,
misses on
whatever.
sixes.
Apparently, yeah.
No, I think it's like you said, where it's surface level. I think it's more along the lines of like everybody gets something out of the hobby. Some people just get the they like the meme stuff of the
I like that.
of the lore.
That
fucking
meme
love
Ick
it,
made
man.
the other day.
What?
I like that meme Ick made the other day.
One of you?
Yeah. So when you blow up an armature and the galley or the galley comes in, and it's just me like swinging a punch. It's all
Yeah,
blurry.
yeah. He needs to give you the red eyes. He didn't give you the red like
Yeah, right.
yeah,
the angry eyes?
yeah, the angry eyes, the triggered eyes.
The meme eyes.
Yeah,
All right. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about memes again in the future.
yeah. We can have another topic of
yeah.
it of
I can't really ever think of them off the top of my head.
a lot of them are like
I, know,
orc
I like
memes.
the.
Yeah,
I
there's
like
a lot
the,
of orc memes.
I like the.
I mean,
one in
orcs
the,
are a
the
meme.
Daka.
Earthshaker missile.
What's that?
The Earthshaker missile or whatever.
Do
the
you
big
see that
missile.
army over there?
Yeah, it's
my
like,
lord.
yes, my lord. It's like, I don't want to see them anymore. It's like, yes, my lord.
Yeah, that's the Death Strike.
Yeah, that's it.
Which is the dumb that we
That
even
single
have
missile?
That unit. Yeah, that's the dumbest unit in our codex. Can't even fire for the first 3 turns of the game.
I mean, it's kind of cool.
Yeah, it might be cool in Apocalypse.
I want to mount one on the back of a knight.
That would be sick.
I want to give one to an orc.
Right.
It's just like DACA.
Isn't there one
Still
of the
rocking
robots in
Tank
Pacific
Busters?
Rim?
The Storm Boys?
Tank busters.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about the ones that fly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just one of those instead of the regular one.
It's got a death strike to his back.
Isn't there a robot in the Pacific Rim movies who has a big missile on his back and he like bends over and fires it off his shoulder at some point?
No.
It's Boba Fett.
Coyote Tango has two like 40 millimeter or like 400 millimeter cannons.
Okay, got you.
Coyote Tango was the one that Pentecost operated.
I mean, you can really, in reality, only fire those things like twice, maybe.
Because there's no room for the ammo.
Yeah, like what? Like that ammo is like
280
your
millimeters
fucking
big.
legs. Yeah,
This is thick as your thigh.
yeah.
You guys know why there was no guns or missiles on the SR-71 Blackbird, right?
Why the
nothing
fuck
could-
would you need it?
Yeah, exactly. 'cause
It
nothing could
flies so fast that you would literally hit whatever you fired.
No, that's not true.
It is true.
No, you
That
can still
is
fire.
the reason.
You
that
can
is
still
the reason
fire.
there are not
Well,
missiles on
guns,
it.
yes, but you could drop a missile.
You
and it
could
would- if
drop.
it-
Yeah, you could
Yeah.
drop.
Well, I think
something.
that's what Ryan was saying. Is like
I
it has
said
no
fired,
guns.
not dropped.
Well, there are missiles that drop and then fire.
So there was a missile fired at an SR-70
SR-71. Yeah,
Thank
and they
you.
outrun everything.
Yeah.
And it was about to catch them, it was going to catch them, and they made a millisecond course correction, which made the missile miss by more than a mile.
Yeah.
That's how fucking fast that aircraft is.
Yeah, it's dumb. I watched a guy do one in DCS, and they literally stacked up like every anti-air SAM like in a row.
You're
And then
talking military talk. I don't know what you're talking about. What?
surface to air missile,
Okay, thank you.
SAM site, the big nasty for
Well, I
planes.
mean, when you're not going to be like, yeah, when they sent that ICBM over there.
No. So in DCS, which is a plane combat simulator,
Our
Okay,
friend
they
they
is
stacked
Sam.
up
Come
a
on.
bunch of SAM sites in a row,
Yeah.
and then they flew the
What's a SAM
SR-71
site?
surface to air
So
missile. I
yeah.
just told you.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
their missile.
Yeah, it's
What's a missile?
Surface to air missile site.
SAM site.
Yeah.
Yes, as in a like fixed position.
Like
So you know
every
how when
other
they mount-
acronym
And you
in
were in the military.
I know you're just being a dick.
No, there's people that don't know what.
Like, you could just hear Kevin getting upset.
Like I know you know this shit.
Nah. You fell for it. Don't give me that. I got you going. I got you going. I got you going. Don't try and
answer it for as long as I could before it just got too dumb.
don't pretend like I didn't get you just
So-
now,
so-
Kevin. I got you.
So he stacked up a bunch and then
A bunch of that, and then they flew an SR-71 at performance altitude for SR-71.
What's that? SR-71?
We were
It's
just
a
talking.
really
it's
fast
the thing that
aircraft.
It's a plane. Okay.
Ryan, you can explain it to him.
No. Go on, Kevin.
God damn it,
Continue.
Mark.
Please continue.
Ryan brought it up, so he gets to explain it to you.
It's a big dumb airplane. It's painted
Okay.
black. Go
like
real
the-
fast. It's
that
got
black-
red trim. It's
Is that the
actually
Blackbird,
not dumb.
Black Hawk? What the fuck is it
It's
called?
really
Black
it's
Hawk?
really pretty looking. I
No,
really like the way
Blackbird.
that thing
Yeah,
looks.
Black Hawk's the helicopter, right?
Dude, it looks super pretty. It's such a pretty. I
It
called
does look
dumb,
like a
but
beautiful
it's such
airplane.
pretty
Is that the one that looks like a V?
Kind of.
No, that's
the
the
Black-
that's the
Nighthawk.
stealth one.
That's the Nighthawk, yeah.
Yeah.
This is the one that looks. It's got like a this
It
in,
looks like
at
a
the end
rocket
of it,
ship.
and then it has like a big ass. Fucking
Oh, is that the one that like
Yeah.
comes down like in a weird like dick shape, and then it has like
It-
dick shaped
it-
engines?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Big
yeah, I know
old
what
big
you're
old penis rockets.
Yeah, yeah.
Like kind of stumpy mountain to the wings.
Yeah. Okay, I know
that
what you're
one.
talking about now.
You like shitty movies. You remember that Transformers movie?
Yes.
Yeah, I was like, it's
You
in that
remember the old
Transformers
guy
movie.
that's like, "Rrr."
That was a good movie.
Yeah, of course it was. That's what I'm saying. You remember, I think it was the second, it was the second one when they like woke up the old one. That's an SR-71.
Ah, okay. That dude was badass.
I like how that conversation started. You like
You
shitty
like
movies?
shitty movies?
Of
That
course
movie
I
was
do.
badass.
All right, so it's in this movie. Yeah, that movie was badass. All right, so we got a quote to start off the episode. One of you guys wants to read it? He was like a
Yeah, something like that.
wasn't he?
He's the one that had the beard. Oh no, that was the that was like a bulldozer guy. He's the one that had a beard.
There is that one too.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I only saw like the first two.
What?
I only watched the ones with Megan Fox.
Heaven.
And then I lost interest.
Nah, she's got hammer thumbs.
I let her put that
Put in my booty.
I let her put that thumb on my butt.
Put that hammer thumb in my ass.
Hey, if she was like, "I'm gonna put this up your butt," I'd be like, "All right."
It's bulbous on the end.
I wouldn't say no.
His name is Jetfire, apparently.
Jetfire. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
He's on Jetfire.
Fuckus.
Sorry, Kevin. This is what I'm here for.
I know, right?
This is what I'm here for.
I know.
Go ahead.
Start to a dubstep song.
Hold on. Do it again. That actually worked. Oh, that hurt my throat.
I'm gonna try to isolate that as much as I
Right.
can.
That's gonna go in the new intro, Ryan.
Right.
No soldier here has permission to die, not until you have given these heretic scum Acadian welcome. First rank, fire. Second rank, fire.
That was Galen
Is that the-
Bale. of
I was like,
Fourth
is that the whole
Company.
quote?
Yep.
I was like, what's the
That's
way
the
to say?
quote.
What is it? What did he say?
That's
The
just
Acadian
that's
what?
what Kevin
Acadian
says
welcome.
on his
I was like, what is that? Dying?
That's what Kevin says on his
Acadian
shooting
welcome
turn.
is shooting at them.
Yeah.
Not on a 4-up or 5-up armor, right?
Yep.
4-up for
You got a 4-up?
Canadians.
Nah, that's when you have like the gnarly flak armor, right? It's 5-up. Is
Oh,
it a
you're talking
armor save, yeah.
It's flak armor.
It's 5-up.
It's same as bone armor, I think.
Bone armor 6.
It's 5-up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 5-up.
It's t-shirt save 6-up.
Okay, yeah, it's 5-up.
Yeah. There's
So-
your.
So that quote is from Galen Bale of the 4th Company, who is the 4th Company commander of the 111th during
Is he dead?
the last Battle of Cadia. Yep.
Is he
Most
dead?
definitely.
Oh yeah.
See,
yeah.
so that's that Acadian welcome, baby. No, I'm just kidding, Kev. I got to give you shit, Kev.
You know
I'm
what?
sorry. It's Acadian episode.
He's probably got a higher kill count than you do.
That's probably true. Not on the tabletop though.
It probably still does.
Nah.
I don't know.
I'm still alive.
wouldn't talk
Mine's still
shit.
going
I
up.
wouldn't talk shit. He can pull down the death watch and we all lose. Don't talk shit to Mark. Come on, man. You're asking for it. He's just banking them up.
You put Galen on the table. We'll see.
He's
Yeah,
dead.
they don't have a character stat sheet for
He
him.
dead.
That's right,
He
because
dead.
he's dead.
He dead.
Actually, that is false, and we are going to prove that.
False that he's
later.
dead?
No, the fact that there's no data sheets for dead people.
Oh,
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Anyway,
No spoilers currently, but somebody that we're going to talk
So
about
that-
later is definitely dead, but still in the codex.
Unva.
possibly.
Unva is in the codex and he's dead.
Oh
as
yeah, that's
fuck.
your Tau, one of your Tau guys, right?
Yeah, he's dead as fuck.
But
So the-
specifically Imperial Guard.
Yeah, he's not dead.
No, somebody else.
Oh, okay. I
He's
thought you were.
definitely
I was
dead.
like, he's not dead. He's just in a collection somewhere.
He's Pokeballed. Yeah, totally.
Pokeball for use later. All
Yeah,
right. So
when shit gets hairy.
so this is our episode focusing on the 13th Black Crusade. It's in 999.m41. Abaddon the Despoiler launches the 13th Black Crusade, the most powerful and destructive of his campaigns, to sunder the Imperium. Once again, Cadia is his primary target, but more than the fate of this one planet is at stake. So Abaddon raises
say
the
steak?
I did say steak. Abaddon raises the greatest
No,
war
mistake.
hosts- Who's that? Was that Deuce Bigelow?
this dude's
That's a huge bitch.
that's a big bitch. No.
That's a huge bitch.
So Abaddon raises the greatest war host of ruinous powers seen since the Horus Heresy and leads an all-out attack on the Imperium. The campaign starts as Abaddon leads this massive assault into the Segmentum Obscurus, directly adjacent to the Cadian Gate, sweeping up hundreds of worlds into this conflict. His objective is to capture the Cadian system and the fortress world of Cadia itself. This is a pretty short overview of the events that we're going to dip into. We're really going to focus on absolutely everything that we're going to really focus in on just what the Astra Militarum or the Imperial Guard focuses on with their codexes and different resources. The 13th is a massive and sprawling conflict that really dovetails out of the Gothic War, with Typhus and his plague ships starting to sow the seeds on the coming conflict before it starts. As we move forward, we're going to start to cover major battles, heroes, important planets, as well as the various factions. So we'll definitely circle back and expand in detail on all of the Crusades, all the 13 Black Crusades. But yeah, it's not that this stuff isn't super important to Warhammer 40k. It's just that we're currently focused on the guards.
And it's so
Function.
much that we can't do it.
How many different
Yeah.
legions were in the 13th Black Crusade?
Yes.
Because you mentioned Typhus, so yes.
He
All of them?
unified.
Basically
he
all of
managed
them.
to unify all of them, which
Oh,
he only
really?
did it. He only did a couple of times. He's only done
Wow.
that twice or three
Yeah.
times.
Wow.
Not just like unify like a bunch of chaos like Space Marines and stuff to do this, but he also
All
got
the
like
demons.
Bellacore to cooperate and shit like that.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an impressive feat for something known as chaos to be
Yeah.
this logistically intensive.
That's too bad
And-
for Galen.
And we will cover in short. You're gonna keep going back to that. We'll cover in
It's okay.
short.
I never met him. Stood up when he should have ducked.
We'll cover in short some of the demons and some of the demonic forces that are involved, but we will mostly be focused on the Guard and how the Guard reacted to everything. So before we get into that, let's talk about Cadia for a bit. Cadia will also be the subject of a future Planet Spotlight, so you're not going to get the full Cadian treatment. You're just going to get the cliff notes necessary for this episode. Also officially known as Cadia Prime, this was a fortress world in the Imperium of Man and had been designated as the most important fortress world by the Administratum, second only to Terra itself. Cadia guarded the only navigatable route to and from the warp rift known as the Eye of Terror. It acted to hold the ruinous powers at bay. This made it the prime target for Abaddon to either take or break, and it was subject to the Chaos Crusades every few hundred Terran years.
There's also, funny note, Cadians don't have brown eyes. They have purple eyes.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then
They have a
butthole reference.
Damn it, Kevin. Let me finish my joke, Kevin.
No, I'm shutting that
joke.
one down
It's
right the fuck now.
Too obvious.
Yeah, I could see that one coming
Every
from
joke
miles
you
away.
have.
If you hadn't started it with fucking brown eyes, if you'd started with Cadians have purple eyes, I might not have gotten it. And
I
then-
kind of want to know the rest of the joke though, because I'm not
It's
really
a bu-
sure
No,
it's
how
too late.
purple
It's too late.
and butthole.
It's a butthole joke. That's all that
Too late.
matters.
Okay.
Purple wagon wheels, that's what we got.
So Cadia was a lot like Terra back when Terra was known as Earth. It had multiple biomes, large oceans, and a lot of native species. Several large, strange black monoliths known as the Cadian pylons, however, were scattered across its surface. These were actually Necron constructs specifically created to keep the Eye of Terror from growing. They also acted to create and strengthen the area of space known as the Cadian Gate. So the Cadian Gate is like a region of space. We've talked a lot in the past about how that they treat the Imperium a lot like a naval map, and the Cadian Gate would be the Strait of Gibraltar, Mediterranean Sea, essentially, in a lot of ways.
The hot gates.
The hot gates. Those are on the other side of the Mediterranean, but okay.
Yeah, no, I was just, another analogy.
No,
The
yeah,
pillars
actually,
of Hercules.
yeah, the
Pillars of Hercules.
What's that?
I guess
the
it-
Strait of Gibraltar.
I guess it would be a little bit more like the Black Sea and the Hot Gates. That was a pretty good one.
No, Ryan.
that,
You don't
like
got to
that.
pat me on the back. It's fine.
So after the heresy, the area around the Cadian Gate became heavily militarized, and Cadia itself became the prime fortress world of the Imperium. Cadia, while a vital and living world, is also incredibly harsh and has a lot of varied environments, which made it an excellent training ground for guard regiments that would need to be deployed to multiple locations. So there's this concept that comes up a lot where, Warhammer 40k, the universe, the world building, it's got paradise worlds, it's got death worlds, it's got all this different stuff. And I think we all kind of
Sex
have
worlds.
I think we all
does.
kind of have an idea in our head that Earth would be a paradise world. Earth would probably actually be classified as a death world. There's a lot of stuff on our planet that can just fucking kill you.
Maybe an agri world. Half agri world.
Yeah.
So
Death
I feel
world.
like agri-world generally is a term applied after they have changed the planet
Pacified
to-
them.
Oh, after they've terraformed it into
where they've
yeah.
basically deforested the whole planet
yeah,
and killed all the
and
animals
specifically.
and seeded it for
Gotcha.
farming, change
Yeah,
the
think-
atmosphere, whatever they have to do. Like,
Well, it's
think
not
like-
only for that; they also do it for resources, right?
well, agri-world is supposed to be farming. Like that's agri.
Oh, okay, so-
agriculture. that's the whole
Well, it
point.
would be like a resource planet where they're gathering materials and shit.
Forge
That would be an
world,
industrial world or a
outpost,
mining
industrial
world.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Basically, they're like, if we're gonna do it, we're gonna go 100%
Yeah.
on whatever it is we're gonna do.
But if you look at our planet even 200 years ago, the average human lifespan was in the 40s. You died when you were 40, 45. There's a lot, and it's just our planet is a lot more difficult to live on than we conceptualize in our modern era. And I think that's kind of the point that they're making, where Cadia was a lot like Earth. And because Cadia was a lot like Earth, it was a very good environment to train soldiers to send around the world. And this is something around the galaxy. And this is something we actually see with our own armed forces. Depending on the conflicts that we're in, Marines or members of the armed forces are trained in certain areas around the United States to match the environment they might go to. And that's how Cadia was used by the Imperium.
Yeah,
How hot was 29 Palms, Mark?
we don't talk about that.
5. It's at least
Five
5
hots?
hot.
It was at least five toilets.
hots.
So
least-
it's when you start complaining that it's hot, and then you get 5 times that temperature.
It doesn't get any higher than 5, but it was at least 5 toilets.
Ranked
Whatever
5
it
toilets
was.
by.
Whatever it was, it didn't have any missile sites on it, apparently.
Yeah.
We don't talk about
Any SAM sites?
That was an unsaid statement.
So Cadian shock troops fast became an outstanding example of the Imperial Guard Regiment. Their war gear became a standard for higher quality and operations, while their training and discipline rivaled most other Guard regiments. These regiments were often brought in to either be taught Cadian values and regimental tactics, or Cadians would be sent out to teach their regiment's tactics and doctrines.
Kind of like America and NATO.
Yeah, NATO, yeah. Yeah, I like that. The Cadian Gate, as we mentioned, is an area of comm space leading in and out of the massive warp rip known as the Eye of Terror. This region of space is often the path that War Master Abaddon and other forces of chaos used to attack the Imperium. Because of this, it was heavily fortified, with Cadia acting kind of as the linchpin and the director. However, there is another path called the Ark's Gap. The Ark's Gap is another path out of the Eye of Terror, but it is it is less reliable. However, it's also less defended. So a lot of times when we talk about Abaddon coming out adjacent to, or some of these surprise attacks being launched, it's because they're coming out of the Ark's Gap.
Yeah, it's like
The other booty hole.
what's
The goat path.
what's that thing in Star Wars? The fucking 5 parsecs thing. The
Oh, the
something
Kessel
The
Yeah,
Kessel Run. Yeah,
Yeah, actually, that's a super good analogy for it.
I'm fucking on fire.
Tom's goat path.
Fucking
was great, too.
brown eyes. Fucking
That was
Hot
not,
Gates,
That was not
Kessel
on fire.
Run.
Your brown eye might be on fire, but I don't know what
I'm
you
on
ate for lunch.
fire.
So
You got anything else on Cadia? Just as a quick wrap up.
I mean, I feel like it's
You got your purple eye. Explain your purple eye thing. I want to hear this.
rip.
So-
That's what.
so the purple eye thing is the planet, due to its proximity to the Eye of Terror, is obviously exposed to chaos,
Okay.
like warp energies.
their
right,
brown
right.
eyes are.
So
I'm sorry, their
All
purple
of-
eyes are exposed
All of their eyes are purple. That's their eye color on.
because of
Hey.
exposure.
And it's the entire place. So there is no eye color variation across Cadia.
Yeah, it's just all purple.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And
I
you,
wonder
you
what their dookie looks like.
it's purple.
Rainbow sherbet.
I don't believe there's actually a specific lore bit covering the color
No?
of Cadian poop.
The
I
Necron
bet you there
pylons
is
keep that at
somewhere.
bay.
I bet you there is some.
Confirmed, Katie poops purple. You heard it here first,
It's
people.
canon.
You heard it here first.
You don't get any better on Under the Hive of Madness podcast than finding out new lore like Cadia poops purple. But now it can no longer be confirmed because rip Cadia.
So the Eye of Terror is another thing that we want to cover really briefly.
So Arcadians now no longer going to have purple eyes because they are no longer exposed to the warp.
That's what
because
I was thinking about. It's like the first.
I
and only
believe
again.
Would it
new
fade
Cadians
slowly?
probably would be either fading slowly,
eh,
or maybe their genetic code has
So, like, the
actually
purple
just
will
been
fade,
altered so
like
much.
pink eyes.
I actually wonder if Marky might have, as he's approaching it sillily, if he has a point though. Maybe it's more like their eyes are purple the way that Fremen's eyes are blue.
I'm 100% serious.
Right,
Ryan.
because they're exposed to the spice, so it turns
Right.
blue.
Right. So maybe now that they're not exposed to the
Well,
Eye
bad
of
drug.
Terror,
Cadians
their eyes
do
would
it.
slowly
Smoke weed.
return.
I believe
Every day.
Cadians on other deployments, like being deployed to other war zones, their eyes, I believe, stay purple.
Oh, okay.
So it would either be a generational thing where generations not born under the influence of the Eye of Terror, like on other planets and other war zones, would then be born either without it, or it would either be a generational
Hereditary.
thing where it
I'd
like
imagine,
slowly
yeah.
comes out or something like
I'd
that.
imagine it probably ends up being like blue eyes. Like it's got to be a recessive trait, or maybe it's the dominant trait. And as they start to have kids away from, they'll have recessive like other
Right.
eye color.
Yeah, so like if
Or as
they
breed
if
with other
a
regiments, it'll
Cadian
go
mommy
recessive.
and a Death Corps of Krieg daddy love each other very much, they'll be born with the
very ugly
Death,
baby.
Death Corps of Krieg
be born with the
don't have
shovel in
genders.
hand. What?
Death Corps of Krieg doesn't have genders
How do you know?
because they're just all cannon
They're
fodder.
vat born.
Yeah, and they're
Mm.
vat born.
We'll talk
They don't
about
even
That's
breed.
racist, Kevin.
We'll talk about this.
Actually, they probably have gender, but it's literally irrelevant.
It's fluid.
I mean,
Gender fluid.
it's as fluid as the juices of
Their
corpses
gender
on the
is
battlefield.
shovel,
it's
as
fluid.
they are all born with one in hand.
All right.
No,
There's
there's
some
some
meme
issued
for you.
one,
They got them weird horse toes.
and not
The people?
everybody on Krieg is a
Just the
soldier.
horse.
Oh,
Just
believe
the
it or not.
horses.
They got hooves.
They got them toes.
They got hooves.
All right, I'm gonna redirect us because you guys are fucking
Please
crazy. So the Eye of Terror, which we will cover really quickly, is also known as the Ocularis Terribus in High Gothic.
I thought it was Ocularis Infernum.
Ocularis Terribus. It's a terrible Oculus. I think
Make you stupid.
I think the Maelstrom is the Ocularis, the other one, because that was the first thing that popped into my mind too. The Eye of Terror is the largest, most stable, and permanent warp rift and warp storm in the galaxy. Roughly 20,000 light years across, this region of space allows the Immaterium and the Materium to coexist.
That's a big booty.
All the worlds inside the Eye of Terror are demon worlds and are ruled over by traitor legions and the demon princes of the various ruinous powers. While
Courtesy of the fucking Eldar.
Yeah, we brought that to you. You're welcome.
So parsecs is a form of measurement, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
but believe it or not, it's not the appropriate measurement for what they were using it for.
So there's an actual parsec?
Yeah, parsecs are real, but they use it completely wrong.
No, they don't. It's explained before the movie Solo came out, but in Solo, if you want to watch it, they show it. He essentially makes a measure of travel. He makes the Kessel Run in shorter amount of
Travel
time, in a
right.
shorter physical space, because he dips into space that you're not
warp.
supposed to travel through.
The warp.
Right.
Essen-
He takes a shortcut.
essentially, yeah, he takes a shortcut through hyperspace, basically.
And then he came out with the demonette.
Which
Good man.
is so the Star Wars universe has hyperspace, and then they have another layer of space that is very similar to the warp. It's
Slip
a
space.
Lovecraftian horror thing. as
Spooky
well.
space.
Spooky space. Yeah. So small demonic incursions can be made through smaller warp rifts anywhere in the galaxy, but most large military campaigns need the relative logistic ease of movement allowed by the Eye of Terror. Demons can pop up on a ship or on a planet, or if conditions are met, or if you sacrifice the entire population of an entire planet one at a time. Thank you, Night Lords, to create a giant lake full of human blood. But in general, if you want to move armadas and demon hosts and thousands and thousands and thousands of spaceships and battle groups out, you have to use the Eye of Terror.
Yeah,
Well,
contrary to
You used to have to.
the Chaos armies still have like a logistic structure.
They used to. They don't really anymore. We'll get there.
I mean, there's a remnant of it.
Shit's changed, yo. In 795.999.m41, so in the 795th day of the 999th year of the 41st millennium, the dead arise. Diseased space hulks burst from the warp into the sectors bordering the Cadian system. Those that aren't destroyed spread the zombie plague to space stations, worlds, and entire hive systems.
Now this is different than the Nurgle stuff, right?
This is the Nurgle stuff. This
Right,
is the
but-
curse of unbelief. It is a
Right.
deadly warp virus that leads the infected through several stages before death, where they come back as zombies. These are not poxwalkers, though. Is that
That's
you're
what I was
going at?
thinking. Okay, yeah. That's what I was thinking.
So this is actually a favored tool of the sorcerers of Nurgle. They like to use the Plague of Unbelief to soften up a planetary defense force before they attack. Planetary defense forces are overrun with walking dead who spread the plague like wildfire throughout the Segmentum Obscurus. Apocalyptic cults rise within the Imperium, declaring that it has finally come, the end of days.
Can
So
you
in-
believe it?
So in 890 M41,
I've never seen Kevin look at me so distastefully.
So in 890 M41, the Gathering Storm, the madness and death begin to encroach and even spread into the worlds of the Cadian Gate. The Warp Storm,
Bartholomew?
Baphomet.
Baphomet, thank
Baphomet.
you. The Warp Storm Baphomet expands rapidly into the Cadian system, bringing with it visions of burning worlds overrun with demonic armies. On Cadia, the mysterious Cadian pylons begin to resonate at an amplitude close to a Geller field, and small cracks begin to spider across their surfaces. Raiders descend on outlying worlds such as Dentor, Sarlax, and Amstel, leaving them blackened husks. Throughout the Cadian Gate, Cadian shock troops and various planetary defense forces are spread thin in desperate attempts to quell uprisings and rebellions.
Are excuse me, Cadian shock troops, they're different than
No, Cadian.
Fuck do you call them?
So Cadian soldiers are called Cadian shock troops. You're thinking of Carcassons,
Kasrkins.
Kasrkins,
Kasrkins.
And Kasrkins are named after
Stormtroopers.
the giant walled cities, Khazars,
Where are those?
on Cadia.
on Cadia.
Oh,
And
I thought
they're-
you meant like on Earth. Like
No,
I thought you
they're-
meant it was a
they're
real
named
thing.
after the cities on Cadia, which were called Khazars. Like
But they're not
instead of-
Cadians.
in the
They
Cadian
are
language,
Cadians.
fortress city
Yeah.
is Khazar. So they're named like Khazarcraft, Khazar, whatever.
Yeah, so like if they were named after like bastions, they'd be like bastards or something, right?
Yeah.
So Cadian
Yeah.
is like American.
Nice try. Nice try.
So, Ma-
Yeah,
so
yeah, I
Mark,
get that.
little clap.
I get around.
Little
Mark,
clap. Can
take-
you hear that?
to answer your question, Cadian is like saying American. So somebody
Right.
from Cadia is called a Cadian. Cadian shock troops are the military organization. However, since it's Cadian shock troops and they're always Cadians, a lot of times the Imperial Guard shorthand just refers to Cadian shock troops as Cadians. The Carcassons are the stormtroopers. They're the elite.
They're the
fighting
ones in the
force.
special armor.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I was getting
They
at. And they look like Cadians, so but they are
They look
Cadians?
like Cadian. Yeah.
Okay.
Kasrkins are Cadians.
Gotcha.
Yeah. They're SEAL Team 6 of the Cadian shock troops, basically.
Which are now replaced by Scions,
Tempestus Scions.
which Scions are not Cadians.
No.
They
Tempestus
come from
Scions come
the
from
same
Scionville.
Algeria.
No, they come from the same school that trains commissars and sisters,
Sisters
of Battle.
which is the
Scala
Schola
Progenium.
Progenium, which we'll cover in future.
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, and
This
it's
is why I'm
generally
here.
filled by like
Orphans.
orphans of officers.
You were
and
saying
stuff.
filled by orifices. I was like, oh boy.
No,
Here we go. Here we
Fill
go.
that orifices. That'll be Marky's
that's
episode.
To fill,
that's the ecclesiarchy.
yeah, that's to fill orifices.
That's the
only on the High Shrine Worlds.
To fill or not to fill?
Don't you think they went a little too far, Kevin? Don't you think the ecclesiarchy went a little too far?
On the Shrine World of Bostontonia, where the ecclesiarchy fills the orifices of.
Everything.
All right,
what are the hobbits called?
rattlings.
Yes. Never mind. Moving on.
I was waiting for your ass joke. Is that?
I was out, dude. I forgot what rattlings were called.
9 in 975.999.m41. I like it the other way. In the 975th day of the 990th year of M41, 999th year of the 41st millennium, is the Battle of Tyrock Fields. Cadian High Command, concerned with the havoc spreading throughout the neighboring systems, calls a general muster on Cadia. Millions of Imperial Guard are assembled outside the city of Kars Tyrock when the Loyalist Regiment of the Volsani Cataphractors spring a trap and launch a suicide attack. Confusion engulfs the muster as these newly revealed traitors fire into their former comrades, killing hundreds in the opening minutes. Their objective becomes clear when they swarm the Leviathan command vehicle Fortress Imperium and wipe out Cadian High Command. Sarkar E. Creed rallies the reeling Cadians and orders a counterattack. Along with his trusted second, Jarnell Kell, Creed orders the 8th and 9th Cadian regiments to
Did Creed
link
die?
up and assault the Leviathan. Kell
Creed
is
dead?
wounded. No, Creed.
wait.
Just
Okay.
wait.
Just
You're,
wait.
you're asking questions about the
you're
end of the
yeah.
story in chapter 1.
Wait for it.
Just give him popcorn or something. No, I'm kidding, Mark.
Oh, I'll put something in his mouth.
It ain't gonna fill it.
You won't
I
even,
got a little mouth and ain't gonna fill it.
you don't even gotta chew, just swallow.
Kell is wounded in the battle, jumping in front of a las round meant for Creed, but refuses medical attention and presses the attack. Creed, known for his brilliant tactics, utilizes artillery fire to scatter the traitors and brings down the Fortress Imperium's void shields, seconds before his charging forces slam into the Leviathan. It is recaptured, and the Cadian 8th colors fly once again from its command deck. Creed is appointed the Lord Castellan. Fortress Imperium's 8th is renamed Lord Castellan's Own. In 976.999.m41 is the bracing of the gates. Convinced a full-on chaos assault of a truly epic scale on the Cadian gate is now imminent, Sakar E. Creed takes steps to prepare a defense. New fortifications are raised across Cadia, and the astropathic choirs call ceaselessly for aid. Psyker's minds are burned out as calls are cast wider and wider and never end. If you guys remember our first episode of Tales of the Hive, we actually had a story which recounted one of those psychic calls. The Emperor's Tarot is consulted often for hopes of hints or gleams of Chaos's true plans, but it simply continues to cast Cadia's fate in doom. The Departamento Ministorum responds with uncharacteristic speed, but even with that, reinforcements are solar weeks away at best, and the Cadian Gate will have to stand on its own for a time. 994.999.m41, First Blood. Cadian High Command sends an expeditionary force of Karsakan shock troops and Tempestus Scions to the very edge of the Eye of Terror. They are tasked with finding any indication of where Abaddon's next blow will fall. Focused on the Imperium planet of Earthwort, which had suffered the brunt of Black Crusades ever since the first, is where the expedition makes planetfall. The surface of Earthwort has been long rendered uninhabitable. It's a dead world, with a population living out their meager lives in massive underground planetary shelters. Unknown to Cadia High Command and the expeditionary forces, the Nurgle plague ship, the Plague Claw, had already been through the Earthwort system and spread the plague of unbelief as it passed. Finding no signs of life, the Tempestus and Carcassan forces breach the primary planetary shelters. As the vault doors grind slowly open, they disgorge billions of plague zombies. At the same time, as if in coordination, a vast Strata armada transplants out of the Imperium, and its vanguard elements unleash a torrent of plasma torpedoes into the expeditionary forces transports, wiping them out.
Question.
Yes.
So Cadia is like the defense, right? Of like the first defense of the Eye of Terror, right?
No.
Cadia's the bouncer before you get in the club.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Cadia is actually pretty far back in the Cadian Gate. There are planets a lot closer to the Eye of Terror. This one, Earthwort, is like right next to it. It's the closest planet.
So you say that the Eye of Terror is 20 light years long.
20,000.
20? Yeah. More to my point of how does Cadia keep all that shit in? You know, that's a big booty hole. So, and Cadia is like the size of a pea.
So there's only two stable paths in and out of the Eye of Terror. There's the Cadian Gate, which is a relatively
So
it's
it's
like a super highway. Think of it like a bunch of massed mountains that you can't get out of. Or
So it's like a big butt crack, but you can only come out of the booty hole.
Think of like driving to Vegas
Sure.
and trying to get gas, and there's only that like one spot to get gas out in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that.
Okay. Fair enough. Continue.
Think about it like as we keep kind of coming back to. Think of it like an ocean. There's a relatively large space of ocean, but there's only one way to attack Rome, and that's to go through the Strait of Gibraltar.
He doesn't do maps.
I was like, you know.
Thank you, Kevin. I should have just. Kevin's right. Go with the Vegas analogy.
Vegas, bouncer.
I'm really bad with directions too.
Yeah.
The bouncer one was before you get into the strip club, you got to deal with the bouncer. Right?
Yeah. And Abaddon used to come in and he'd punch the bouncer in the face. The bouncer would hit him back in the face, and then he'd go to another club. But this time he's like, I'm getting in the club, and he brought a fucking dump truck to run it through the fucking wall and ended up bringing the whole club down and was like, hey, at least I'm inside now.
What's up, bitches?
There we go. 13th Black Crusade simplified.
You want? There we go.
There it is.
YouTube
Moving
video
on. Yeah.
that goes super viral. 13 seconds of the
Like, it was
13th
like-
Black Crusade.
It was like, how do I get into this club? I know. I'll murder the bouncer and establish 19 bazillion clubs exactly like this in a long line all the way across the galaxy. Would be a much better analogy, Kevin, but
No,
So-
I mean, but
so
he
during-
definitely
so-
he definitely
so-
destroyed the original club.
to unmemify everything, which would take going through all the Black Crusades. During the Black Crusades, as Abaddon was collecting information and power and figuring out what to do about this hard to crack nut, which was Cadia. And the reason it was hard to crack is because he logistically had to move hundreds of thousands of troops past, it's basically you've got one pathway out of a box canyon, and that one pathway out has a bunch of snipers sitting at the top of it, and you're trying to figure out how to deal with those snipers. Well, when he was trying to figure out how to deal with those snipers at the top of the box canyon, he realized, oh, there's a bunch of these pylons all over this planet, which are keeping my actual goals from coming to fruition. If I can destroy all those pylons and break the planet, physically break the planet, I can actually have everything I want untapped. I no longer have one highway. I now have thousands of highways.
Now, was that actually planned, or was he
Yes.
like, I'm losing, I need to crash this fucking...
No, it was
this
planned. It was all
black-
planned.
I mean, I got the impression he was trying to blow him up from orbit and then Cadia was able to use their shields to kind of hold
He wanted to break the planet. He wanted to keep the planet as a staging ground. He did not want to destroy the planet, but destroying the pylons was always in his plan. And he had decided, I'm not going to be able to take the planet. I need to fucking Death Star it before the he's losing. So he crashed the Blackstone Fortress. He had already set stuff into. There's a lot of pride in Abaddon's final moments, not final moments, but in the final moments of the battle that we'll get into in a lot of detail, actually. So, but yeah, yes, he knew that he had to deal with Cadia. He wanted to keep Cadia as a staging ground, and he was unable to do that. We'll actually talk about that too. So in 995.999.m41, the Great Eye opens. Abaddon's armada blots out the stars as it streams from the Eye of Terror in an endless avalanche of heretics and mutants. Although massively overwhelmed, Admiral Quarren directs his Imperial Navy assets to stem the tide of Abaddon's ever-growing forces. His fleet fights with nobility and distinction, exacting a heavy toll on the traitor's armada, but it isn't enough, and slowly it becomes clear that the Imperial's Navy efforts are doing little more than eliminating drops from a bucket. Eventually forced into a retreating action, Quarren's forces limp back towards Cadia, harbingers of a doom nipping at their very heels. Mere hours behind Quarren's forces, the skies of Cadia boil with fire as warp storms churn through real space of the system. Fire rains down as massive swarms of twisted landing craft descend upon Cadia like flies to a corpse. Mutants and heretics invading the world in the millions. Lord Castellan Creed uses his masterful tactics to hold the enemy at bay for as long as he can, knowing the Space Marines, Titan Legions, and uncountable Imperial Guard units are en route to reinforce Cadia. His mastery of defense and strategic brilliance unlike anything seen since the days of Macarius. Many rumors swirl that Creed has some as of yet unveiled masterstroke that will prove the doom of Abaddon's entire crusade. The truth is less romantic, and the defenders fight a bitter war, for if the Cadian gates fall, then the unbridled wrath of the warp would spill into the Imperium, sweeping all of mankind into a tide of horror and madness.
Interesting.
The fall of Cadia. The fury of Abaddon's 13th Black Crusade consumes Cadia, ever more servants of chaos spewing from the Eye of Terror to join the assault on the planet, even while reinforcements rush to Cadia's aid. Lord Castellan Creed leads a desperate defense of the world from Khazar Karf, where millions of guard die. Khazar-Kraf? Okay, cool. Where millions of guard die outside the walls defending against demons, chaos cultists, and heretic Astrades. Their morale is crushed and threatens to break as the guard.
There's that word again. Ryan is Astrates.
Heretic Astartes. Morale is crushed and threatens to break as the guard in Cadian command witnesses the atrocities committed by Abaddon's forces to the field of battle. I mean, I should be saying
Chaos Space Marines, Ryan.
Not Abaddon. What am I supposed to say? Abaddon. A bad man. A bad man forces on the field of battle. Easy to kill a bad man.
Abaddon.
Easy to kill.
No, you're supposed to say it you're not supposed to say Abaddon. Just like you're supposed to say Catation instead of Catachan, but fuck.
We don't do that here.
Games Workshop. Love you. Keep selling me models. Fuck your naming conventions.
And we are more than willing to take any and all codices that you decide to codexes.
Book kill team boxes.
Yeah, all that stuff. We'll test whatever the fuck you want.
Email us at under the Hive of Madness.
Shameless plug.
But we're gonna pronounce it how we pronounce it. That's our only caveat here.
What's that?
I said, but we're gonna pronounce it how we want to pronounce it.
It's fine. I'll refer to him as easy to kill a bad man from now on.
Yeah.
Demon Prince.
Harmless a bad man.
Demon Prince Urkathos and the Hounds of Abaddon launch an all-out assault on the heart of Khazar-Kraf. Is that how do you want me to say it?
Yeah, that works. That's Khazar-Kraf. Yeah.
Khazar-Kraf. Following a tactic Abaddon is well known for, even back during the days of the Great Crusade, attacking the strategic center of your enemy in order to cut off the head of the snake. All seems lost, the guard shattered, until Saint Celestine and the Adaptus Sororitas appear at the sides of the demoralized and faltering Cadian regiments.
Did Celestine die?
No. This combined force manages to drive the enemies back, and for a time, a brief respite allows for the collection and burning of the dead. The Sisters of the Order of Our Martyred Lady provide support and healing ministrations where they can, as the newly recombined forces brace for the next challenge.
I'm gonna find out who dies. I'm gonna find out.
Meanwhile, people
We're
die.
gonna get there.
Meanwhile,
Here's a hint.
Cadia,
Pretty much everybody.
rocks fall. Meanwhile, Cadia is locked into a blockade created by Abaddon's forces in orbit around the planet, even as naval battles wage across the rest of the Cadian Gate. Able to batter a path through part of the blockade, Adaptus Astartes and the Adaptus Mechanicus reinforcements are able to make planetfall, bringing even more aid to the bereaved Cadians. Among these new forces is Archmagos Dominus Belisarius Call, who is able to tap into the ancient knowledge and use the geometric pylons, which are scattered all across the planet of Cadia, to hold back the creeping advance of the warp. So the entire time this is happening, not only are there a bunch of physical troop forces everywhere, but the warp is like pushing its way into Cadia's atmosphere. And the only thing holding it back is these pylons. Abaddon's forces are not held at bay for long, however, and another attack overwhelms the defenders, Abaddon himself nearly slaying Creed. However, Lord Castellan is spared once again by the last heroic sacrifice of his ever-loyal Sergeant Garin Kell. As Creed escapes on a Valkyrie with the 8th Cadian Command scattered and slain, Abaddon holds Kell up and crushes his spine, discarding his broken corpse. The Black Crusade now overwhelmed what was left of the Cadians' defenses, overrunning the few pockets of resistance that stood in an effort to support the retreating forces. Abaddon and his forces continue to pursue the Cadians into the heart of the planet. Trazyn joins the party to help Call and boosts the defenses of Cadia for his own reasons. So Trazyn shows up as the Cadians escape into all of these, like, I'm actually kind of confused about this, Kevin. Are they mines or are these like natural caverns that have always existed that Cadia just knew they could use?
I think it's natural caverns, and
Okay.
it just happens to be that there's also some spooky Necron shit down there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because Cadia...
Well, because the pylons all go like underground and shit.
Right.
Yeah. So when Cadia was discovered and settled by the Imperium, it is a Necron planet. It's a tomb world. It's just an abandoned tomb world.
It's an abandoned tomb world, and actually, I believe there was people living on it when the Imperium discovered it.
Yeah. And they kind of had a little bit of sense of what the Blackstone fortresses and what the pylons were, but it kind of gets lost.
And they have no idea how they work. They just understand that, like, our planet is safe, and it's probably because it has these things that we don't see on other planets.
Trazyn is the
Yeah.
man
Pokeball man.
spreading guy, right?
No,
Tra-
Trazyn is Pokeball with the museum guy.
Yeah, he's the guy that sits on
Trazyn-
the throne with his legs all wide
No.
open and shit.
No,
No,
that's the Sonic King.
Trazyn the Infinite is the collector. He's the guy who like travels around the galaxy.
He's got like a bad
stuff that he
attitude and shit,
likes.
right?
No.
Yeah.
He's got a
No,
Howard.
he's got a great attitude.
So Trazyn and Oberon are like the two old Muppets up in the thing that make fun of the rest of the Muppets in the Muppet Show.
Oh, okay.
Trazyn is like, oh, I'm going to live forever. Well, cool. Then I'm going to literally have one of everything then.
Yeah, you know Benicio del Toro from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Right, the
Marky?
collector.
It's
right,
that.
right.
It's
Trazyn.
he's 40k that.
He has a
That's-
Howard the
that's
Duck.
Trazyn. So Trazyn shows up and is basically like, hey, Call, you need some help? And what he does is he pulls, Trazyn has been collecting Imperial military forces for 10,000 years. And he just starts like opening these pocket dimensions and bringing parts of his entire planet is a museum. And he basically like think of like night at the Smithsonian. No, Night at the Museum, where like there's those,
where everything's alive.
yeah, where everything comes
Yeah.
alive. That's Trazyn's museum, and Trazyn is just like, Call needs help. Well, I've got all of these space marines everybody thought died 10,000 years ago, and he just opens up and like fucking 100 space marines join the fight, and then some Imperial Guard forces join the fight, and then some other guys join the fight.
Yeah.
I actually never knew that was the thing.
So
Well, it's
during-
only Trazyn. It's
all- yeah,
Trazyn's, that's
Trazyn's-
his thing.
yeah, he just shows
Actually,
up and-
they just recently did a little bit on Trazyn's museum in the Warhammer show, the Hammer and Bolter or whatever.
oh,
And it was actually, it was really great. He tricks some chaos like devastators or whatever, because he's like, "Hey, go recover this artifact, and then I'll trade you this other artifact for it." And they're like, "Cool," and they go off, and then he's just like, and they get sucked into a pocket dimension.
Just kidding, Pokeball.
He's like, I got him.
So there's a book called The Infinite and Divine that came out within I think the last year or so. It is probably my favorite 40k book ever. It centers
I've heard good
around
things.
Trazyn and Oberon fucking with each other the entire time, being grumpier old men, essentially.
They're so old that they don't care about like the politics of like the rest of the Necrons anymore.
They just like fucking
that they
with
just
each
fuck
other.
off and do whatever.
Nice.
Like whatever they want.
That's dope.
And like in their interest of continuously fucking with everybody else in the galaxy, chaos can't win.
Yeah.
So that's why they're like, all right.
There's actually a lot of Exodite stuff in the book. It's a pretty good book. I was very impressed. I think it ranks up there with Double Eagle, which is one of my other favorite books.
Okay.
So Saint Celestine meets Abaddon in single combat, and after a short fight, a backhand from the War Master brings her to her knees in defeat. Celestine knew no fear as she met the despoiler's black gaze, all unfolded according to the Emperor's will. He would catch her if she fell, as he had before. You cannot win. Mankind will be free of your masters. The pale brow heightened with unreadable emotion. There is no freedom. With that, Abaddon lunges, Drakian spearing forward. However, Abaddon's physical attack is held back from slaying the saint by Inquisitor Greyfax, whose psychic assault buys time for the remains of the Cadian 8th to attack Abaddon. So Greyfax is somebody that Trazyn was just like, we're going to bring her back and all of her forces.
She's a badass. I like her model.
Yeah,
She's
she
the one with
is.
the hat.
Yeah, and the
Yep.
the, like the
The
bow,
dragon thing.
the bow
She's-
slinger.
She's the
Bowcaster.
pure. Yeah, she's like one of the Puritan examples.
Yeah, she's super puritanical.
Don't they call that?
Go ahead.
The fuck do they call that? They call it.
Puritanical.
No,
Yeah.
no. It's There's another word for it. God damn it. Not elitist, but
There's two branches in the Inquisition in general. There's the Puritans and there's the
ones who all eventually
the
go
radicals.
rogue. The radicals. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the other one.
was it radical?
There's radicals and Puritans.
Okay,
and
maybe that's the word
Eisenhorn
I'm
started out as a Puritan.
And
And then he
becomes
slowly
turned into a
ends up
radical.
radical.
Right.
And then he ends up full radical, by the end.
Because of like the demon host and everything, right?
Yeah.
He's like skating half pipes and like, dude, bro, radical.
Totally
you know?
radical.
Yeah,
Fucking demon host 1080, bro.
So as the Cadian 8th launches their attack on Abaddon, other guard forces and Cadian forces join this last-ditch assault. Abaddon slaughters them to a man, leaving Creed left standing. Creed defeatedly bellows. Cadia stands at the War Master, but this time no other voice joins him. Mocking laughter cut across the cacophony. Creed raised his pistol, sending shot after shot into Abaddon's path. One raised a livid wound upon the despoiler's pale brow. The others refracted across his Baroque armor. Cadia is dead, thundered Abaddon. Even now, its doom comes. So at this point, Abaddon had already started the process of crashing the Black Stone Fortress into the planet.
Mm-hmm.
This is very important that I point out he had already decided to do this. The monstrous lightning claw lashed out. Creed fell amongst the dead, blood oozing from his ravaged arm, electricity arcing across his armor. His pistols had gone, one cast aside at the claw's strike, the other slipping from a bloodied hand whose fingers had been sliced away. Yet Creed felt no fear, only defiance. Cadia lives, while but one of its soldiers fights on. Crackling talons closed around Creed's neck, hoisting him effortlessly into the air. I set this world's fate in motion before I even made planetfall. But for hubris, I would never have set foot here at all. Your games with pylons have only reinforced the folly of pride. So in this moment, Abaddon admits that his pride brought him to the planet. He wanted to fight Creed.
Yeah, 1v1.
Creed clawed at the talons with his one good hand. They might as well have been carved from stone. But now, rumbled Abaddon, the corpse bride has fled. The will of Cadia is broken. The Imperium will follow. I do you the honor of being the last to die by my hand. Take solace in the knowledge that this benighted world will not long outlast you. Abaddon drew in Creed, choking off his attempt to speak, and said, Cadia has fallen. However, before he can crush the life from Creed, Saint Celatine spears Abaddon with her sword. The blade passes right next to his spine, causing him to feel pain that he hadn't felt since the Great Crusade. Realizing he was out of time and wounded too much to claim his vengeance, Abaddon makes the decision to teleport back to the vengeful spirit.
So Creed's
That sh-
alive.
So he drops Creed. Yeah, Celestine. So Celestine is the corpse bride that Abaddon is speaking about.
Referring to. Yeah.
And
Because
at
she's
this
a
point-
reborn saint.
Right.
And at this point, they have opened a webway portal and are starting to.
What we've left out is there's constant fleet action in orbit going on.
Right,
here.
right.
There's also
There's-
members of the Cadian 8th still alive. They're just not in the tunnels.
Not right where Creed was.
Right.
And
Just all
there's
of Creed's
also,
forces are dead.
what's her face showed up.
Celestine?
Yvrain.
Yvrain showed up.
A bunch of Eldar showed up too.
A bunch of Eldar, because Eldar, once again, like the Necron, are like, as much as we hate everybody
This
else,
real
we
bad?
still don't like chaos more than pretty much anything.
Right, right.
So
It
the
is
Eldar
real,
showed
real
up.
bad. Yeah.
The Eldar showed up and spread their webway open for the humans.
So Celestine and the sisters are retreating into the webway as all of this is happening.
That
so
she did.
yeah. And Abaddon and Creed are kind of left alone in this, and then Celestine comes back,
So
basically.
where are all the Space Marines in this? Because it seems like everyone's joining the party. Are they like
Space Marines were there.
A bunch
of them
died.
were dead.
Yeah, a bunch of them died in this battle.
Space Wolves, if I remember correctly, for the most part.
There's a
there was
bunch
also out
still
in
on-
the fields. Like,
Yeah.
So we've
There's
kind of
the
left out a lot of
Elysian-
the deal. The
like you
Elysian
said, this is
fields.
more the highlight on Cadia and Cadians, right?
No,
We'll come back. We'll actually come back to the Elysian Fields in a minute. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that falls on Cadia that's
There's a
being
bunch of
defended
ships from
by-
orbit.
Yeah. And there's a lot
like
of stuff.
Space Marine ships crash, and they turn them into basically fortresses where they crash.
Yeah. So we pretty much, as we mentioned up top, to try to cover the entire 13th Black Crusade in an episode is a pain.
Gnarly.
Impossible.
Yeah. So we're covering all the super important beats to the Guard.
Right.
We will come back and talk about all of the super important beats to Cadia and all of the stuff for the Space Marines.
Yeah, there's a bunch of
There's
Space
a
Wolves that go
lot.
out. And
Yeah,
murder
I just
a
haven't
bunch
heard
shit. There's a
heard
bunch of
anything
Black
about
Templars
Space
out
Marines
there
and stuff.
murdering
Okay.
shit.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then,
So-
but also you got to remember, like around this time is also Ultramar getting fucked up by other stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
What about the Grey Knights?
in this fight against Abaddon?
I don't know where they're
when
at this
Trazyn-
point. They're busy doing something, if I remember right.
When Trazyn uncapped a bunch of his Pokeballs into this fight to try to hold off Abaddon, several of those pocket dimensions either brought in Space Marines or uncapped Space Marines. And in that charge that I talked about, where a bunch of the Cadian 8th and all of these other Imperial forces rushed Abaddon and he fucking killed all of them to a man, that wasn't just guardsmen. He ripped through entire Space Marine units as well. He just laid people down left and right in his
it's a
need to kill.
bloodbath.
What about
his
Greyfax?
need to kill Creed. Greyfax is still alive. She escapes,
She boops into the warp,
but the fact
Oh,
that
into
she's
the webway.
Gotcha.
the fact that she's there, she doesn't. She actually escapes the.
Oh no, she
actually
escapes on a ship, right?
She escapes on a ship. But the fact that she's in this fight and she's constantly psychically assaulting Abaddon is one of the reasons that Abaddon doesn't just fucking slaughter everybody, including Call. Greyfax is an incredibly powerful psyker. And even though she doesn't like to use her power because she's a Puritan, she's basically she's giving Abaddon a migraine during all of this, basically. It was like the way to look at it.
I still like that, even though Creed doesn't have any crazy guns, he's still firing at Abaddon there.
Oh yeah,
He hits him square in the forehead and leaves a little burn mark. just the thought of that that happening is just ha, gotcha, bitch.
It's Tom Hanks pulling out the 1911 and shooting the tank on the bridge at the end of Saving Private Ryan. That's
Exactly.
Or it's
that's
Sid
what
burning
Creed's
that.
doing.
Sid burning that little
Where is the rebel base?
So the
He's just
shattered
like, oh.
I quote that line all the time.
So the shattered remains of an orbiting Blackstone fortress, the Will of Eternity, begins to plunge into Cadia. While
Right. See,
Abaddon,
it's shattered because there was a bunch of other shit happening.
the Blackstone fortress got fucked up. But
Yeah.
Abaddon,
See, we left out the fact that the Phalanx was here.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
There was a bunch of other. There was Ragnar Blackfane.
That's right. The Imperial Fist.
Yep.
That's right.
Suicide
Yeah, well-
ran at it. A bunch of stuff happened in orbit.
We'll talk, yeah, and we'll mention a couple of the things in orbit here in a second as the end happens. Even though the fortress was shattered, and even though it was starting to crash, or even though it's crashing in air quotes, Abaddon had made the decision to spear the planet with the Blackstone Fortress at a point where the Blackstone Fortress was still operational. So think about it. Like they didn't shoot it and it fell. He made the decision to crash
they disabled it
Right.
in orbit, and then
And they were
that's when he was
trying-
like, okay, well, I'm just going to drop it myself then.
That's
That's how I felt it went down, because
So the
it
way
seems
that
like it was just disabled, but like floating, and it was just like, oh, well, it can't go anywhere else. I might as well use it to blast the planet.
So Blackstone fortresses have really, really massive like planet-ending weapons, and that had been the original plan. I'm going to fire the Death Star beam
To scour the Elysian fields.
That was disabled. And when that was disabled, Abaddon said, okay, fuck it. I'm going to crash it into the planet. And he started the course to crash it into the planet. In reaction to that, all of the ships were like, oh, fuck. It's the Armageddon, the movie Armageddon scenario. We need to stop this thing because it's going to break the planet. So they're just trying to chunk it up and break it into smaller pieces before it enters the atmosphere. But to look at it as it was disabled and floated into the planet is the wrong way to look at it. It was a tactical decision.
No, it was definitely deliberately set on course by Abaddon into the planet.
And the
but
Navy
it was
is
also
just trying to destroy
disabled
it.
Previous to that. Yeah.
I think it was disabled like well previous to that. I'm pretty sure it was disabled before it got to Cadia. But
in the research that I was doing, it shows up, right? And the Imperium's like, oh, fuck, we know what he can do
we
with
need
this.
to deal with this.
So Cadia pulls up their crazy planetary shield defenses that the Necron, like the pylons and everything, they supercharge the pylons, you know, that kind of thing. So it saves them from the big Death Star
That's what Call
beam.
is doing. Call is on the planet.
Doing. He's
like,
on the planet
manipulating.
tweaking, trying to boost the shield so that it can protect from the big doom laser. And then that's when the Imperial Navy and all the Space Marine ships are like, fuck that thing.
Yeah.
And then they blow up, they disable the actual doom laser.
Including the Phalanx as part of this fight.
And the Phalanx is part of this and everything.
Yeah. Right. That was in Battlefleet Gothic, basically the start of it.
Yeah. And so then all that kind of happens. And then that's when Abaddon's like, okay, well, if I can't use my doom laser, I'll just use the fucking bulk of it to blast
use my
the shit out
my
of this.
doom fucking
My doom gravity, bitch.
my doom gravity.
He's basically like, there's two ways to use this weapon. I can shoot its energy weapon, or I can use it as a giant missile. And I can't shoot the energy weapon, so giant missile it is.
A gun is still a baseball bat when it runs out of ammo.
Right?
Yeah.
So even though Abaddon had won, he also admitted that the Cadians had as well. He had destroyed the world instead of taking it. And in his honor, he had to concede that even though their victory was slight, the Cadians had still won in denying him the planet. Planet side, Creed is wounded and broken, unable to act, and it is Inquisitor Greyfax who orders the general retreat. Black Legion and traitor forces begin to retreat, leaving the slaughter to their demonic allies as the planet shudders in its death knolls. So demons don't have to flee the planet. They can just blip out into the warp whenever they want to. So the physical assets, the non-demon infested or non-over a certain percentage demon infested assets start to leave the planet.
Chaos Space Marines, cultists, all that kind of stuff.
As the pylon system begins to fail and the Imperium rips open on Cadia, Call utters the words, Cadia is lost. So it is not Creed who concedes defeat. It is Greyfax and Call.
And that's how they can still kind of like say Cadia stands, because actually the Cadians weren't the ones who did it. They were ordered to retreat by Inquisition and the highest ranking Mechanicus.
The highest ranking
everything
like human in existence at this point in history is Call. This is pre-reboot coming back.
Oh,
Call,
okay. I was going to say this is before.
Oh, right, because this is when Yvraine then goes to save.
Yes.
Right, because they're getting wrecked by the Death Guard.
So Call leaves into the webway with Yvraine. Greyfax leaves into orbit with the Cadians.
Right.
So
with dying Creed and dead Kel.
Yeah. So Creed eventually
Both characters
rallies.
still in the Codex.
Kel?
Kel.
Flagman.
Jaren Kel.
Oh,
the guy who got shot twice saving Creed.
The big ass flag dude?
The dude with the metal arm and the flag?
Yeah.
Yeah, that dude. He dead.
Big ass.
He didn't.
Yeah, the big ass
He also-
Flagman? Yeah, he dead.
Oh, okay.
He also
did.
didn't die. He also didn't die because he got shot. He died because Abaddon crushed his spine.
Yeah, he got shot twice, and then Abaddon crushed his spine.
Yep. Abaddon picked him up and crushed him with his lightning
Dude
claw.
is straight G.
Respect.
I just assumed that he like hammer fisted him, like he's standing there and he's like, bam.
No, Abaddon has this thing with major characters where he likes to pick them up
And
then,
give him a little like one-liner
monologue
and then crush them.
monologue as he's slowly crushing them.
He's
and
a
then
Batman
GW,
villain.
yeah.
He's an ultimate Batman villain.
Right.
And then GW
yes.
and then GW has a way of attacking him while he's doing that.
So let me tell you my plan.
And you'd think that Abaddon would just get to a point where he's like, "Nah, I'm gonna virus bomb that motherfucker from orbit." But no, he goes down.
He
and
makes it
writes.
personal.
But
Makes it personal.
that's his thing. Is it's always personal for him. And
Yeah.
it's, like all the
yeah.
Chaos guys are super powerful, but they all also have a fatal flaw.
Right.
Well, and he admits it when he's talking to Creed. He says, "It's in my
Pride.
hubris that I
Yeah.
am here.
Mm.
I
Like, he didn't
made
need
the
to go there."
mistake of coming to the planet because I wanted to take the planet."
Right.
Yeah.
And he realizes, oh fuck, I fell for the exact same thing Horus did. Horus wanted to take Terra so bad, he stopped thinking tactically.
Yvrane's big booty Eldar girl, right?
Yeah.
Yvraine is
Big
yeah.
haired Eldar girl.
Enkarn is the goddess.
Wait.
There's the Yvraine. There's the dude that has the he's in the red armor. He
It's
looks
the
like a
Vis-
Cabalite.
The other
It's Yvraine, the
Phoenix
Vistakar. Yeah. You are correct. So Yvraine is
Big booty Eldar girl.
the Eldar with the like hoop skirt, the giant.
Yeah.
She's
Okay.
the
Victorian
champion
hoop
of
skirt.
you need.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. She's got that old school booty. She's got
Oh
the
my-
badonkadonk from the Robots movie.
Oh my god, did you guys watch the fucking video that came out last Sunday?
From what?
Yeah.
There's a lot of videos that come
Again, G-Dub made my day. The guy was like, yeah, so when we were designing In a Need, I was like, motherfucker.
In a need?
I'm like, stop deciding 3 years after the entire fucking community has decided how the name is pronounced, that you just
change
have
it?
to fucking jump in and Manchester all over it like an ass.
Dude, I feel like they do that on purpose. They're like
do.
fucking trolling
do.
us.
They're like, oh, the entire community has been calling him Catachans for fucking 10 years. Yeah. All right, go on there, Manchester boy. Oh, yes, the Catation. Motherfucker.
The Catation period saw
They
the
should do-
rise of dinosaurs.
They should do it on Twitch so people just fucking blast them. They're like, get this motherfucker.
Games
I'm
Workshop
sure-
is one
I'm
of those
sure they
companies that would do a
decided.
Twitch live stream and disable comments.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Like they do it like the army.
I'm sure there's a reason that it's pronounced that way in proper English, but it's just one of those things. where I'm
Tom.
like, oh my god.
Do you have any thoughts?
We've been calling her Yanid for so long. Don't call her In a Need or in I Need or whatever they called her. I'm like, don't do that. Stop, please. Please
Was it
stop.
Ined?
It may. I can't remember. It
I could-
pissed
I
me
It
off.
wasn't you need.
I will.
It was not
allow-
Yanid.
I will allow Yaned. I
No,
won't
it-
allow anything between those two. Those are the only two that make sense to me.
Eh.
It was like Ianid or it was like Ianet or something.
It was just like obnoxious.
It was Catation. They Catationed it. Okay, so that we way off topic. Okay, so Abaddon conceded that even though he won, he lost because the Cadians were able to keep the planet from him.
Because he wanted to be able to use it as a staging ground.
Right,
To
right.
store munitions, fuel, whatever.
Yeah, use it as like a
Right.
launch point
As
for the
his
rest of
own
the
fortress
galaxy.
to do basically the opposite of Cadia.
Right.
Yeah, because at this point he needed to take the planet or destroy the pylons in order to move on with his tactical plan. So he goes with destroy the pylons.
Because it's a two-stage, well, probably more than two-stage plan, but the two-stage being he needs to be able to get out of the Eye of Terror.
Right.
And then what we're about to open up with is, and then by blowing up the pylons, he came all over the galaxy.
The fattest nut ever busted.
Something that keeps creeping up in a lot of the other Black Crusades is like the Imperium is like, we don't understand why Abaddon completely missed all of these tactical things and went to this super backwater planet and just like he landed on Lipstickius.
He landed on this planet.
He
shot up a
landed on
bunch of the PDF.
Lipstickius.
Space Marine showed up and then he left, and they're like, weird.
Yeah, but it's really weird. There's all these scorched black holes all over this planet. We don't know why. And what Abaddon was doing was he was going to other planets that were covered in
the
not
pylons.
Cadian pylons, in Necron pylons, and he was destroying Necron pylons. That was all he was doing. So it sets up this chain of events that makes the entire end make sense.
That makes everybody that's like, oh, Abaddon's an idiot, look like an idiot.
Yeah. So Creed eventually rallies himself and helps
because he didn't ever take any planets, and they're like, "What kind of fucking crusade is this? It doesn't take shit." And then 500 years later, they're like, "Oh,
Yeah, he's crusading for that ass.
because he doesn't need it there when you don't have a mortal amount of time, you don't think like a mortal. There's no reason to say I need to do all of this in 100 years if you know you have 100,000.
Yeah, patience. I get it.
well, that in time is different in the warp and
Right.
all that stuff." So Abaddon could probably just go to sleep and wake up 700 years later and be like, let's burn a planet today.
Time to go crusading.
What's next on the list?
Yeah. So Creed eventually rallies himself and helps to fight in the rear guard, allowing the Cadian and Imperium forces to retreat to the Phalanx, which is in orbit around the planet. As the last transport leaves the field, Greyfax hears a last Cadia stands echo from the remnants of the Cadian 8th. Eventually, Creed is left alone on the planet, his last words being fall back, before Trazyn steps from the rising dust and wind. Asarker e Creed, the giant's words slammed down like tombstones. This needs not be your end. Eternity awaits. With the fall of Cadia and the shattering of the Cadian Gate, the Eye of Terror spills into real space, expanding and splitting the galaxy with a surge of spilling and rolling warp storms, known as the Cicatrix Maledictum. That is where we will pick up with our last episode on the Guard. So, breaking the planet
Cliffhangers.
allowed the Cicatrix Maledictum to spread, which is now why Chaos can basically attack with impunity anywhere they want in Force.
Impunity. That word.
Impunity.
All right, guys. So, that'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
If you guys have lore you want to share, ghost stories, or even questions, email us at underthehivofmadness@gmail.com or grimdarkgaming@gmail.com. Join and get involved with our community on Discord. We have channels for hobby progress, official lore, homebrew lore, tactics in Warhammer 40k, as well as general hobby and also video gaming channels. You can also find us around the internet on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. As we finalize our website and get a couple of things up and running, we have a link tree set up with all of those links easily in one place for you. If you'd like to help the podcast grow, you can do that by liking and reviewing us wherever you get your podcast fix. We are on Spotify, Apple, Google, Stitcher, and many, many more. If you want to be a little bit more directly involved, you can find us on Patreon at www.patreon.com/underthehiveofmadness. All Patreon members get access to a video podcast that has minimal editing about a day early. That's exactly what you guys are hearing right now, except the blunders, the side comments, and the tangents where we talk about, we tangented pretty hard a couple of times today. Those all end up there, as well as blunders, resets, hilarious mispronunciations. These guys giving me shit for not saying Astartes right.
Astartes! You finally got it right.
Just say Space Marines.
Yeah, just say Space Marines, like the rest of us.
Also, it gets you access to our quarterly painting contests, as well as access to some specialized graphics and some other goodies as we have time and money.
We have neither of those things.
Yeah, there's a lot of worthwhile stuff on Patreon. We really encourage you guys to go check it out.
Every little bit helps us. We appreciate y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it seems like Bob is starting to run a little bit low on these amazing wings. If you want to check them out, you better get down here before Beast and Kev make a pile of bones taller than the entire restaurant.
Too late.
Once again, we have been 665.66 UHMR Chemrat Radio. Remember, too many four-armed emperors soil the sump and everything. I don't know why I put it that way. You should probably just run.
Also, don't be afraid to rate us 5 toilets.
5 toilets, that's right. On your favorite podcast. On your favorite vodcast, Voxcast.
Yes.
What did we want? Microphones? You motherfucker.
Nah, I prefer toilets.
Motherfucker.